Welcome back, beautiful people of the podcasting universe and world. My name is Frankie Rodriguez. Three Amigos podcast is live. Christopher Langsford.
Did you
Blah,
do a
blah.
line before
I don't know. Chris, me and Tony go way back. Did you know?
this?
Chris and Anthony are here. We're doing lines. I'm slapping tables. We are in. We are live. We are about to talk the sale of WWE to a bunch of cokeheads. I mean, Endeavor, UFC, Dana White, everyone's favorite husband.
hmm
Oh, don't come after me, Dana. Don't slap me. Um,
Oh, he might. He
he
might.
might, he might. Then he'll probably pay me money and hush up.
Yeah.
Um, Look, it's no secret. Uh, WWE was on sale, not necessarily for cheap. Uh, Apparently Vince got what he wanted, and it's going to be 9 million. I think that it's overvalued. Some people said it was near like what 4 billion, 2 to 4
Yeah, closer
billion.
to Star Wars money.
Yeah, it's crazy to me to think that you know a universe that's been. I guess. Look, I'm not trying to knock anything about what Vince has created. The man is a piece of shit, but what he has created is essentially a universe,
hmm
which took upon absolving different territories and essentially creating WWE as one. And essentially, UFC kind of did that by buying Pride, which was a beloved MMA promotion throughout the late '90s and two, early to mid 2000s, and Strikeforce and W WEC. So it made sense. It kind of makes sense. If you're a casual of both things, sit down and I could try and give you a quick history. But I'm not gonna actually do that because it's gonna this podcast would be way too long. So to my two casual friends here, when it comes to UFC, there is a lot of potential that's gonna happen with this sale. It's gonna either be good or bad. And I didn't discuss this openly with you, but here are my thoughts. And to everyone out there that potentially could happen. I haven't even seen any articles of what could happen with the merger because I don't think anybody wants to speculate. But I don't think speculation isn't illegal, and no one should feel bad from speculating. Unless you're really saying that it's a guarantee. There is nothing. Nothing I'm going to say is a guarantee. But right now, with UFC, Endeavor, the company to be logistical or correct, is buying WWE and merging. Everyone right now in the comment section is livid as a UFC fan. People who are UFC fans are livid. It's hilarious
Wait, why?
because they said it makes the UFC less credible. I'm like, you do realize this is too. Everyone, for some reason, I think is assuming that they're all going to be like some interconnected like promotion. It's not. It's going to be two separate companies. One's going to be purely based on sports. The other one is purely based on entertainment with athleticism. And people can't seem to grasp that. Obviously, it's gonna what's happening is also gonna negatively affect wrestling fans because now you have these UFC, you know, purists and casuals who think they're purists, I guess, and who really are just out there who want to see people be murdered and be knocked out and don't want to see and call stylistic wrestling and jujitsu humping. Those are the type of people we're dealing with, and also people who live in the South, probably. Not to knock out the South. Sorry, I'm being general. Whatever. It's a joke. Relax. But these same people who consume UFC pretty much consume WWE. But for some reason, I'm gonna go on a limb say like some of them get that this is a good thing, but others think it's a bad thing because it it says like it hurts their credibility and their like realism. Like, well, UFC has and excuse me, mixed martial arts in general has its own set of rules. It even has unified rules. It has different. It's just different. Wrestling entertainment, pro wrestling slash entertainment, or universe, whatever you want to call it, is completely different on the sense that it's obviously scripted or predetermined outcomes. But nothing about nothing in the ring that happens in the ring is not fake. And again, that's going to renew unfortunately that the pay that oh you watch that fake stuff. Unfortunately, and it's already happening. If you go into the like ESPN or any of the UFC like postings, uh WWE postings in the comment sections, you are gonna see these MMA fans. You're gonna see the casuals and the purists just saying really dumb shit. Really dumb shit. I wish I had screenshot one because like one person's like, yo, this is stupid. I was a fan of the UFC and now like you just lost me. Like, what do you do? What? Like,
What?
bro, I'm
This
gonna
isn't going to change their day to day at all.
it's
What?
not. So and I'm okay. Oh, I found it. Thank God. I made a comment. A lot of people jump to conclusions. Nothing's even set in stone. That's what I said. Um, let's see. Yeah, okay. Boo, the UFC's real fighting where WWE is so fake. Ugh, the two are not comparable. This saddens me. Like it's hilarious because people really don't get it. They don't get it in the sense that it's like WWE owns, the right to create a video game and figures. And this is like the equivalent of the UFC kind of saying like, yeah, we're also like do in the business of that, and like you're ruining your credibility by like doing that because other sports don't really do that. Well, yes, they do, and it's just like maybe that's not the best example. It's just like it's so hilarious that they feel like they can't that these two things can't live under one umbrella and be separate.
Right. These
Like
people know that Endeavor like owns a shit ton of other stuff that's not the UFC, right?
they
Like
clearly
do they
don't know
think
that.
the UFC bought the WWE? Are they like
They
completely
probably
just like
think
Yes,
that, but
dense
because
to what actually
and the
happened?
other issue I think at hand, everyone's saying that UFC is merging with WWE. That's what the articles are saying. And yes, in some sense, that is a merger, but they're going to be separate entities
Yeah, so
still.
they can list it on the stock market.
Yeah, exactly. They and I guess from like can't wait to see the next championship fight get interrupted by Roman Reigns jumping into the octagon with a steel chair and a clown emoji.
First of all,
Uh,
that'd be awesome. All right, don't act like that would be fucking awesome.
Why? Okay, see it. Why would the UFC muddy their name with wrestlers? They might lose a lot of credibility for this. The WWE has been dying breed for quite some time. The only thing that pulls viewers is WrestleMania once a year. That's how you could tell that person's a casual. The WWE has been very profitable for the last like decade,
People
along with
think
UFC.
that the UFC bought the WWE.
I really hope pay-per-views for UFC end up being on Peacock like WWE has done. Okay, so this is brings me to I guess one of the arguments that's kind of good in a way, but also kind of bad as a consumer. Um, so Dana is going to be in charge of UFC, but Ari is the guy who helped pretty much run the UFC, so he's going to be running WWE. And the way that UFC functions is it's pay-per-view. They have pay-per-views. Their prices have gone up pretty drastically over the years, to the point where like it's almost as expensive as boxing. However, boxers get paid more than the UFC fighters, but don't tell that to anybody. Um, so that's gonna be kind of cool, but also bad. Cool because that brings more credibility, as much as people are throwing out that the credibility's hurt or dead and dying, whatever. Back to pay-per-views. I don't know what the pricing is gonna be. I can't begin to imagine. Maybe they'll do like a sign up, what they always do, where like if you sign up, get this pay per view for like half off. But right now pay per views are around like almost like $90 for a UFC fight, which is a lot. I don't know if they're gonna go the same route. That'll be kind of alienating to a very working. Well, I guess UFC is also very working class viewership, but I feel like WWE is very like especially with Cody now, son of a plumber or grandkid of a plumber, you know, it's like you're gonna alienate your audience a bit, but it's gonna bring back that, that classic feel, that old school mentality of pay-per-view and that gives them an edge in terms of like going head to head with AEW because AEW hosts essentially pay-per-views and they're very affordable. Um, but and they have good buy rates actually. They've gone over 100, I think 100,000 buys for each a lot of their pay-per-views. Whereas, we know nothing ever about how many viewership really when even when pay-per-views were like on the network, and me and Chris, you and I would just split the $5 each to try
Yeah.
and watch. So we don't know how that worked out and how it will work out. But bringing back pay-per-views and putting it behind a paywall in terms of like a single pay-per-view costs this much, that might be very beneficial towards them, and it just kind of bring the longevity of wrestling back. In terms of also maybe beefing up those contracts for some of these for these wrestlers and getting pay-per-view buys again into their contracts. Uh,
Mm.
it would be very beneficial because you also get pay-per-view buys if I think or in your contract if you wind up on the pay-per-view for UFC, which when it comes to buying and contracts, now this is where another negative kind of slash positive comes in. The NXT contracts are definitely way better in terms of money than some of the UFC contracts. It came out to light that Paddy Pimblett, one of their rising stars who made his name in independent scene, signed, and apparently his contract is the minimum, which is 12K to win, 12K to show, and 12K to win. So that's
Mm.
$24,000, and usually a fight deal is anywhere between 3 to 5. So it's not a lot of money. It's not a lot of money. It's a lot for some, but you also have to factor in deducting for your camp and paying your coaches. That gets deducted, and the chance that you might not win. If you're not that good, you might not win. So you're just making 12K each fight. And then sometimes fight camps can you're not always offered a fight, and fight camps can take a while. Some fighters just wind up fighting once a year. So that's $12,000 just once a year for some of these people. So like it's really not that rewarding unless you're winning and getting match of the night bonuses, which are usually 50K. Then yeah, like Patty, every time he's fought, gets 50K on top of his 12 measly 12K to win and 12K to show, or 12 to show, 12K to win. Whereas, when you sign with NXT, you get you get taken care of pretty well. I know Dax, former Scott Dawson of the Revival, had mentioned even though when they were on the main roster and NXT, their contract money wasn't always the best because stuff did come out of their pocket when it came to traveling, hotels. Like sometimes that wasn't put up front. However, that could change now with the sale and merger. I don't know. Pay-per-view buys, that could change. I don't know. But some of these NXT contracts are way better, and you're better off than being an MMA fighter. Which, if I'm the UFC roster and I'm one of those people who have 12K, or even some of, there could be as low as 10,000. I think 10,000 to show, 10,000 to win. I'm not very happy, and there's always been like this debate about fighter pay. It used to be better because you could have sponsorships. At one point, Demetrius Johnson, former flyweight champion, he was sponsored by Microsoft. He had Xbox on his ass cheeks, you know, just fighting and kicking ass and taking names and winning all the time while promoting Microsoft. And he would get money from that and from different sponsors on their shorts. Now they can't do that because it's now like monopolized in a way. They had the Reebok deal that everybody hated, and they didn't really get much from that. Not like they used to be before. Now they have Venom, which apparently it's a bit better, more money, but it's it's tough that you can't get these sponsorships anymore. But one thing that was pointed out with um Endeavor and probably going to change is that they might give them health care because Endeavor in the UFC provides health care for the fighters,
Wow.
especially during fight camp. Imagine that, right? So
I
that's
think
some
you'd have to be classified as an employee.
which if they're under Endeavor and if this a merger as a sports entertainment and athletic, all that check off, then they would probably have to fall under that category. And
Hmm.
and since I think they work out of Las Vegas, I'm pretty sure Endeavor is out of Las Vegas. I got to double check. Las Vegas has a shit ton of commission stuff they have to follow in terms of like providing for fighters. However, since WWE did kind of create the norm of what it is to be a wrestler, the independent contractor thing could still stay, but I don't know. Hunter, the OG team might come to bat and say, hey, can we talk about, maybe providing more stuff for our our boys and girls over here on top of already the lucrative contracts they're kind of getting. But however, to be fair too, WWE has always kind of taken care of people when they gotten hurt. They do pay for everything technically. Um, but same thing with the UFC. Like if you got hurt during a fight camp, there is insurance. So like if you had to pull out of a fight because you needed surgery, UFC usually covers you. Um, so yeah, there's that. Also, um, when they with Endeavor too, they allow it for you to be on other private platforms. So like you can Twitch stream, you can do OnlyFans or whatever. So that opens up the door again for potentially, some of these WWE superstars for getting more sponsorships to do things outside and bringing back cameo. I don't know. I mean, if Bruce Buffer is allowed to do a cameo saying happy birthday to Jonathan, you know, I think Cody Rhodes should be able to have a cameo, and I'm sure they would let him have one anyways because he's a top star. So maybe like I don't know, maybe um I want Omos to fucking say happy birthday in like a grunting voice to me. That's that should be allowed now, hopefully.
Hmm.
So that's one thing. The other issue though that's that could happen again with this is that UFC would just lower the contract money or Endeavor would for what NXT is offering to, kind of increase the profits. Because if they're already doing great, if Endeavor on its own, with especially with the cash grabbing cow that is the UFC now, are doing good numbers by paying some of their roster, 12K money to show and win. Some do get paid better if you're, like up there and winding up on the card. And their roster is huge. Like the UFC roster has like around like 300, I think, maybe 200 fighters, but they're always cutting, but they're always cycling through new fighters. Sometimes they bring back fighters. Again, it doesn't mean that it can mirror what UFC is doing to WWE. However, I would be a little bit worried because how notorious they have paid their fighters, and if you're not at the top, at least either in the top of the top 15 in your division or a champion, you're usually going to get shit pay, and you're going to have to be reliant on making sure you win a fight of the night bonus, and that's usually again 50K. And if Dana's feeling generous, he'll give you 75K. Um, so to maximize profits, again, I'm not a financial advisor. Never said I was. I'm just kind of speculating. Speculation City. You may be seeing those NXT contracts that get offered. Uh, that might be less now. That might be less. However, they could, balance it by saying like you won't only just get access to the Performance Center. You also get access to UFC Institute Center, in Las Vegas, and then all the centers that we wind up opening because UFC is planning on expanding massively. They're doing in Mexico. I think they have a UFC Performance Center in Japan, and I know they don't have one in Brazil. So like, but that could include, hey, train over here, train over there. They might even expand the PI to include wrestling rings, so people can like kind of work with them too, and you know, so that's I guess another positive. I had a list, but like it just threw it away because like it's just so much. I don't want to talk too much. Those were like my key things. Um, yeah, any questions that you guys think that in terms of like the Endeavor stuff? Again, I am very familiar with how UFC kind of operates. Obviously, I'm not 100% on a lot of things because I don't work for them, but I know how a lot of the fighters' contracts function and how they're notorious. And we kind of also know how notorious, at least Chris does, and how notorious the contracts are for just being a wrestler for the WWE.
I don't see why anyone would think there'd be any like real connection between these two. They're two different companies. I mean, they're going to be blended into like one stock symbol, but
Yeah. If
I
anything,
mean,
it
like,
opens up a lot of opportunity too.
oh yeah, for like crossover stuff and I
Yeah.
guess like healthcare, that would be cool. But I'm not sure I see any of the WWE like contract structure changing just because people at UFC are like jealous that they're getting their head kicked in and not
Hmm.
making enough money. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's always a little tough with with that kind of stuff because it's like, well, on one hand, nobody's telling you to go to the UFC and get your head kicked in for $12,000.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, it's like, it's not easy to make it in WWE. They release people all the time. Sometimes it's public, sometimes it's quiet, and we don't hear about it.
Exactly.
But similar to the UFC, like,
You
yeah,
get
you
cut.
hear about, the 1%. You hear about the success stories, the people that are making good money. I think, obviously there's a difference between like somebody like God, I hate to shit on Baron Corbin, but like let's take Baron Corbin. Let's take Baron Corbin, for example. Somebody who's literally not doing anything right now. I don't think he was on Mania unless they did like a pre-show thing. And he's making good money, like literally
Hmm.
sitting in the back eating catering all day. And
Hmm.
if somebody of a similar like spot on the card, in UFC to where Baron Corbin is in WWE, is probably not making any money because you actually have to be on a fight card in order to get paid.
Yeah.
Um, so I see that there's differences there, but that's also because they're two different companies. If you don't like it, try
Hmm.
making it in WWE. Like, see how far you get. Like,
Yeah.
I guess like sometimes these complaints um about it. I don't want to use this meme to like disparage anyone in the UFC because I know they could all beat me up.
Hmm.
But there's like that meme of the boot on the kid's face in the first frame, and then it like pulls back and it's the kid's hand is in the boot, putting it on their own head.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, yeah, I get that you look across now and you're like, oh wow, this random person in NXT who I've never heard of is making like 100,000 to do nothing, quote unquote, do nothing. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Um, and I'm getting my brains beaten in for 5 grand on the bottom of the card, like one fight a year, whatever.
Hmm.
But at the same time, like, to all those like UFC fans out there who clearly don't watch wrestling and have decided to form an entire opinion on WWE despite clearly not watching it,
Hmm.
like, please direct yourself to the picture of Finn Balor from yesterday's WrestleMania,
Yeah.
where he had his fucking head ripped open by a ladder.
Yeah.
I've seen some UFC fights. People do get hurt. The ref is in there to try to make sure nobody actually dies. That's why the ref is in the ring with WWE also, like to make
Hmm.
sure that these guys are actually injuring themselves, putting their bodies on the line.
Yeah.
Um,
I really want
yeah,
to see some of these guys take a chop from these casual fans from all sides, take a chop from Walter and see how they like it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know, the wrestling is fake thing is so played out. It's like, yeah, it's predetermined, but
It's not fake.
I'm sure there are plenty of UFC fights that people wish were predetermined instead of Ronda Rousey beating someone down in like 3 seconds. And then people complaining. They're like, why did I spend $100? The pay-per-views are too short. It's like, I don't know, man, because they don't plan that shit out. Like they didn't write a
Yeah.
storyline. Like, could end at any point.
It's also funny how like people like are just like they're also joking, but also there's like some truth to it for like their mentality or their like thought processing is like how like what else is going to be predetermined next to you? Like, NFL is already predetermined, so I guess baseball is, right? With the new rules. Basketball's like, Jesus Christ, you guys are spiraling. Relax.
Hey man, you think Dana White doesn't wish that he could have pre-scripted Holly Holm not beating Ronda Rousey, not kicking his golden goose in the side of the neck and putting her down? Like, there are so many instances in UFC or any like real-time sport where I'm sure the people at the top wish that they could have had a different outcome.
Ooh, you would
Um,
love this this story of this excuse me, this MMA promotion where remember Kimbo Slice?
yeah,
He was like pretty much they put all the focus on him in this promotion. They got a television deal, but they burnt through so much money that they were practically broke on their next event. So the CEO, the president of the company, the guy that Kimbo was gonna fight was a replacement fighter, and he went to the replacement fighters like take a dive for the fight. I'll give you some money. Kimbo's got to win. And
Mm.
then I think there was also like betting stuff involved. I don't remember. And then the guy, I guess, didn't take the dot. I forgot if he said no or he's like he forgot. But
Wow.
he winds up knocking out Kimbo, and then you could see the president stand up in horror and see in real time, putting his hands on his head and like just his soul is like, I'm screwed. It's over.
Yeah.
This idiot. I was like, oh, I gotta find it. It's hilarious.
Dude,
So
out of
yeah.
curiosity, I wanted to know how much Endeavor paid for the UFC when they first bought it because I had heard this story that back in the early 2010s that
Mhm.
Shane had actually asked or recommended to Vince to buy the UFC.
Yes.
And so Endeavor, so UFC is currently valued at about 12 billion, and Endeavor paid 4 billion for it back in 2016. So I would caution any butthurt UFC fans right now to prepare your buttholes for the WWE to eventually be worth way more than the UFC,
Yes.
since they were purchased for more than twice as much, at least the value on the eventual stock price. I think Endeavor is gonna blow WWE into an even bigger entity. Also, it's always been like kind of funny to me is like wrestling, like, professional entertainment wrestling
Hmm.
is it's such a weird thing. I mean, it's weird if you are a fan. Like, there's plenty of weird shit that you experience as a wrestling fan.
Hmm.
But on the outside, it's the circus. It's like if you're not in it, if you don't watch it, if you don't know any of the people in it, you're just like, what the fuck even is this? Like, who are these people? Like, what's with these like weird colored belts and like what are these moves? They're putting each other through tables. Like, this shit is fucking weird and corny.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not invested in it, like you really don't get it. But like I just see like if Endeavor is they were able to triple the value of UFC in
Yes.
7 years.
Yes.
So if you could do that with what is arguably the most barbaric thing you could have, still attach a sports label to it because it is people actually beating the shit out of each other. Um, I feel like they're gonna blow WWE into something insanely mainstream. Like when they bought UFC was pretty
I think they
It
bought it
was
for like
like
millions, not even
it
billion.
was certainly not as big of a deal as it is now. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's just that, yeah, I guess I wish that. I mean, it's sometimes tough to like take somebody who doesn't watch wrestling and like even tell them where to start,
Hmm.
because there's like I don't know 40 years of like stuff they could probably try to catch up on.
Hmm.
But I guess I don't really understand any of the anger. I'm just glad WWE wasn't sold to Saudi Arabia,
Same.
uh, who I thought would have matched or beaten any offer. And
They would have, yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe that story came out a few months ago. They were testing the waters, and obviously the
I think it was in that. I think
uh,
it was. Yeah, you're right. It was like an on purpose leak to see what would happen.
yeah, and I totally backfired, which obviously it would. Um, so I guess I'm glad about that. I don't really see much like changing on the surface aside from maybe Roman Reigns is like in the audience at the next UFC show and they like
Yeah,
show him the way they showed Daniel Cormier yesterday, like at Wrestle or
yeah,
like on Saturday, like at WrestleMania.
yeah.
Like
Some of
that's
these
and
guys are
also
fans.
also, this makes me so happy that Brock Lesnar went to UFC and kicked the shit out of all those real fighters who
Yeah,
were in the UFC.
yeah.
God, that makes me so fucking happy. I love nothing more than when Brock Lesnar crossed the party lines
Hmm.
and beat the shit out of their champion and took the belt. Oh my God, man. Just knowing how angry some of these UFC fans are, this makes me so happy that a WWE guy walked across, took their top championship, and then left. And then he just pieced out. He got so fucking bored in UFC. Um,
Nah, it's because Overeem took his fucking liver.
well, bearded Brock is different in UFC, man. It's not
Sure.
the same.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't really see that much changing. I think this is probably the best possible outcome. I hate Dana
yeah.
White. I was curious. I don't know what you guys think about this, but UFC is definitely very edgy. in terms of like what they're marketing. And so I know a lot of fans for a long time, it felt like WWE had lost their edge. They had a lot of sponsors that they had to please. I don't really know what sponsors UFC has, and I know WWE currently
Beer.
has some contracts with
Hmm.
NBC and Fox and like, other companies involved. But I'm kind of curious to see if Endeavor gives them more leeway, like as time goes on in terms of what angles they can and can't do.
Hmm.
Because I could definitely see this the same way you might see some people in UFC looking across and being like, hey, that's not fair, like this, and this. I could also see WWE looking across and be like, hey, didn't this person get their fucking jaw kicked off last week? Like, why can't we run this angle where like this, and this happens? Like, who cares
Hmm.
if it's like super dark? So it will be interesting just to kind of see like if Disney had bought WWE, you would probably never see anyone be allowed to bleed on television ever
Oh,
again.
absolutely not. Absolutely
Um,
not.
yeah, so I think that was the only thing really that like crossed my mind when this news hit after it was confirmed that Triple H was going to stay in
Yeah.
creative was just like, yeah, I wonder if WWE like eventually, not tomorrow, not this Friday, but like within the next 3 to 5 years, if we see them kind of shift a little bit more towards doing some of the stuff they did in that golden attitude era that everybody likes to bring up all the
Yeah.
time.
Which
Because
kind of is
UFC
cringy.
UFC does a lot of crazy shit, including the guy who owns doesn't own the company, but
Yeah.
president of the company. But yeah, I don't know. Could be interesting.
Do you think it could be a more edgier amp? Okay, we lost Anthony. Um, so I think it has a potential of being edgy.
No, I'm here. I don't really
No,
have
man. No,
like
no. Shut up. Shut up. You're out of
You
here.
lost your chance. Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
Ref, throw him out.
I don't really have like an opinion. This was more of a educational episode for me.
Okay, well, shut back down and shut the
Um,
fuck up.
hey, in an educational setting, I get to ask questions by raising
Oh
my
yeah, no,
hand
please
and
raise your hand.
nah, but I don't really other than like I mean, I had a comment that I didn't want to say about those who think that um they're gonna like have any like, oh, this is gonna mess up UFC and this and that, whatever, or oh, they're gonna do like some kind of crossover thing, or like, oh, they're gonna make UFC fake or whatever. Like I guess the nicest way I can make the comment of those people are like, people are just stupid. People don't like this from a guy who hates to read. People need to like read into the actual details when they're available of like, this is what
Yeah.
the notes are if they're there. If there's no notes and it's
Yeah.
all speculation, then it's speculation. But any type of merger, like, oh, we're merging, like, we're buying WWE to be under our umbrella. That
Hmm.
means, as you guys mentioned, Roman coming in with a chair into the what they call it, the octa
The
thing,
The
octagon.
the
octagon.
Octagon.
octagon. Yeah, like what if the NFL purchased what's the Rock Super Bowl of not football league thing called
Oh, the
It was
XFL.
WWE's at one
right.
point, It was the XFL. It
Right.
was
Oh, that's
Vince.
So
right.
like you think you're gonna see like a quarterback wrestling like Cody Rhodes or something? Like
Right. Tom
no, it's
Brady's not going to go to the XFL for a week and just like
right.
throw a few
Yeah.
touchdowns. Yeah. Dude, I don't know. I think the most annoying thing about this is that like it's clear that a lot of people who watch UFC
Are
think that
casuals themselves.
UFC bought the WWE, which
Yeah.
is just
UFC can't afford the WWE on its
but
own.
also UFC has an owner. They're owned by there's a company above them. That's
Yeah, I know.
I
It's just
I
funny
don't I
because
don't
hey, look, like again, I don't mean to make fun of my Southern folk, but you guys love your violence. You love your monster trucks, you love your NASCAR, but y it's there's a lot that goes into this. It's not just cut and dry merger. Look, we're gonna see fucking John Jones in the WWE ring facing Roman Reigns. We're not gonna see that.
right.
I mean, we might see some crossover to promote more, and that promotion is just gonna expose and maybe potentially bring in new fans. Some of these casual UFC fans or purists were probably, let me see what this shit is all about. I haven't watched this shit since Stone Cold was relevant, and even then I thought that was stupid. It's like, oh shit, that guy did like 5 flips in the air. That's pretty cool. You
Right.
never know. Like it's you just never fucking know. So like, but yes, like people. I look. I don't mean I'm. You took the route of they're stupid. I take the route they're just very uninformed. obviously, and they're just speculation city. They're just speculating. It's like they need to chill. Like, some of these guys are probably Trumpers who, like, they just take everything, as it is.
Yeah, gotta fight the establishment, brother.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
also take the stupid route in the reasoning of, and it's not a good. I don't think it may not be a good reasoning. I'll admit that, but my
Yeah,
reasoning
it's just
is,
generalization. Like we get
yeah,
like
it
UFC fans get
is.
generalized like as brainless. No, like a lot of UFC
Well,
a lot of
I
UFC fighters are like really smart and like were athletes and like 4.0 GPA students. Some of them have been doctors or are doctors after they've left,
Yeah,
That's
but
the
you also
fighters, not
look
the
at like
fans.
so I can take the I could say that yeah I can how you say it.
You know
I'll
nothing of
claim that I'm
UFC.
being generalized, right?
Mhm.
I can claim that I'll generalize, but
Yeah.
with the people that I deal with on a daily basis, and I live in the South, like people are stupid. Even if like you got someone who's like they could be book smart, but they're not common sense smart. I deal with them often,
Okay.
so people are just
That's fair.
stupid. I'm just generalizing, but I accept it. I don't care.
I like to see the good in people. So, you know,
I don't anymore. I tried not
yeah.
anymore. That's another
Yeah,
conversation for another
yeah,
day.
don't worry about it, man. Well, then you shouldn't watch the other stuff because this is bringing out the worst of everything.
Yeah, I
Uh,
do wonder, like, I'm genuinely curious, like, how much crossover there even is between the fans of both.
I mean, I'm like,
Because,
I guess
like,
a unicorn. I don't know. I don't think
I
so.
have no interest in the UFC, like, literally 0%. I don't know when the pay-per-views are. I don't know who the champions are. I knew Ronda Rousey. It's kind of like similar, like any sport that you don't pay attention to. You really only know the best person or the most popular one. Like I knew Conor
Mhm.
McGregor, Ronda Rousey, and then I knew Holly Holm because she beat Ronda Rousey.
Conor McGregor,
But
right?
like, I couldn't. Nate Diaz, I think he's still a fighter. Like, I don't know any of these people, and I just, I tried watching UFC. It just doesn't do it for me.
See, I don't even know the last two you named. I only know Rhonda and Connor.
Right. So I'm like genuinely curious, like if Endeavor actually cares about crossover between the fans, because I think both companies are selling different things. And so I'm not even sure that, like, if you're someone who likes UFC, like, dude, relax.
You know, I got your crossover right here. Here's the crossover. It's gonna be
Crossroads.
WWE versus AEW featuring WWE versus UFC featuring AEW 2K games.
Oh man. Hey, oh, you know what? Look, if they, that's the other thing too. Like sometimes people complain. I'm telling you right now, if they put Conor McGregor in 2K24, that shit would be dope. I would be so in. That'd be awesome.
DLC.
Like, give
They
us
put.
some of that crossover. But on the day-to-day stuff, like, chill. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah, it's gonna be fine. There's so much potential. There's so much that's gonna open, but it's all speculation city, and that's how it's gonna be, and that's how we're gonna end it tonight. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, podcasting universe, for listening. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.